Japan is an archipelago nation off the east coast of continental Asia. It has a population of about 126.6 million people. It is governed by a constitutional monarchy with an emperor, a prime minister, and a parliament legislation. In addition to having strong cultural roots, Japan has embraced the West and is known as one of the most technologically useful nations. Before its Meiji Restoration in 1868, Japan had a system of feudal government ruled by a shogun. The shogun was selected from a group of elite samurai that ruled over their section, Japan, as warlord. In the system, samurai had the responsibility of always being prepared to give their life for their warlord, as it was considered honorable to do. Each samurai controlled all aspects of an estate. The peasants within each of these estates did not have the right to leave or even marry without the permission of their samurai master. The system included four main occupations, or social classes. These were samurai, then farmers, then artisans and craft makers, and lastly merchants. Quite in the contrary to the rest of the world at the time, merchants were considered the dregs of society as they lacked a specific skill that was essential to life. In 1868, the shogun in Japan lost power and the emperor was put back on the throne of Japan. The emperor took the name Meiji, meaning enlightened rule. When the emperor was formally crowned in 1868, he set out to westernize Japan and to take back control of his trade relationships and military power. At this time, Japan had an insignificant army and no navy. Western powers had bullied Japan into unfair agreements on account of their not being acclimated to Western philosophy. It was very difficult for Emperor Meiji to unite Japan as one nation. The people still believed they owed service to their samurai masters. Emperor Meiji quickly banned the four-occupation system and set out to better education and local rights of the Japanese people. In his system, all Japanese citizens had the right to an education. He also instituted the Meiji Constitution, which called for a parliamentary system of government. It now became the people's responsibility to vote and govern themselves. Emperor Meiji set out to make a fully operational army and navy. The nation that once embraced the ideas of isolationism, farming, and frowned upon trade and foreign affairs quickly turned into a booming industrial power as any nation in the West.
The Meiji Constitution, formerly known as the Constitution of the Empire of Japan, was in effect from 1890 until 1947. It established limits on the power of the emperor and the executive branch and created an independent judicial branch. It gave subjects the responsibilities of following the Constitution, paying taxes, and, if conscripted, serving the armed forces. The Meiji Constitution also provided for a number of rights for Japanese subjects, including freedom of movement, freedom of speech, assembly and association, the right to private correspondence, and the right to private property.
The new government was by no means a single-handed operation. The emperor needed a group of other strong leaders to unite the nation under his rule. Okubo Tosamishi served as a finance minister for Japan, and from 1871 to 1873 spent time in foreign countries on an official diplomacy mission. The purpose of the trip, known as the Iwakura Mission, was to gather information about successful political structures, militaries, and economies, as well as to form treaties between Japan and foreign nations. This information gave the Japanese government knowledge of strong government practices, as is the responsibility of any aspiring world power to understand. The Prime Minister, Yamagata Aritomo, faced the challenge of modernizing the Japanese military. Yamagata felt that a government had two responsibilities: the military first, followed by an education system. From 1904 to 1905, the Russo-Japanese War erupted between Japan and Russia. Japan previously underwent a change in social classes, resulting in the eligibility of all citizens to be soldiers, not just those born into a soldier caste. The people of Japan supported the war, winning at the cost of 125,000 casualties on their side. In this, the people fulfilled Yamagata's view of a citizen's responsibility to pay with their life to protect their country. Previously a samurai, Saigo Takamori served in the government. However, he left the government in 1873 in a dispute over Korean trade relations. 4 years later, he led a rebellion consisting of over 40,000 former samurai. The movement to restore isolationist Japan was short-lived, but it took the lives of over 6,000 government soldiers. His rebellion showed the new government that the government's responsibility was to improve Japan in order to make returning to the old ways unappealing. Prior to the Meiji Restoration, Japan's citizens lived in a strict caste system. Under the caste, the occupation of a child's parents was his or her occupation. All of this changed during the Meiji Restoration. Along with the 1868 shift of power came the destruction of the class system, including the samurai. While in some respects the people gained the right to do as they pleased with their lives, there were new hindrances to the citizens. Workers especially felt the pangs of modernization. Forests became private property instead of public, so where farmers used to be able to gather as much fertilizer as necessary, it would now cost them. The coal industry boomed, but this required an exponential increase in labor force. Thus, the people took upon themselves responsibility for Japan's economy, often at great personal cost. Many people did not have gas heating and carried bundles of firewood on their backs after a day in the mines or fields to keep their homes warm. The destruction of the samurai class especially damaged Japan. Now soldiers would have to be volunteers or drafted men. It was now the people's responsibility to act as a nation and defend the new rights they had earned. Japan would in time become a military power capable of defeating samurai in 1877, China in 1895, and Russia in 1905. Education in the Meiji era became one of the government's top priorities. As part of the 1890 Imperial Rescript on Education reads, "Our subjects ever united in loyalty have from generation to generation illustrated the beauty of Japan. This is the glory of the fundamental character of our empire, and herein lies the source of our education." The Rescript described education as fundamental to Japan's culture. The Meiji leaders followed up on this declaration by not only making education a right, but a 3-year minimum of responsibility among all children, male and female alike. The Rescript would often be recited in full at the beginning of each school day, being used as a way to inspire nationalism and responsibility in youth at the time. With the increased emphasis on foreign relations came a change in the viewing of occupations. Careers as merchants and craftsmen were held in higher regards. In a way, Meiji Japan relied on traders for full modernization. The importing of medicines, inventions, and philosophies left clear marks on Japan, such as the use of the steamship to transport coal mined in Japan to other world powers. The peasants, however, needed to give up their time to improve Japanese industry, but in exchange received some Western rights, such as owning private property, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, and new education rights.
The leaders of the Meiji Restoration replaced Buddhism with Shinto as the national religion, popularizing a belief system that was centered around the emperor. In 1868, Buddhist priests were prohibited from serving at shrines unless they converted to Shinto, and in the following 4 years, over 3,000 hidden Christians were arrested in an attempt to eradicate Christianity. The Meiji Constitution brought limited freedom of religion in 1889, but that declined in the early 1900s with the shrine mergers, which abolished roughly 1 in 4 shrines, usually those least adhering to government ideology. These actions show the government's attempt to control the people's rights of religion. In the modernization of Japanese culture during this era, many cues were taken from Western society while traditional Japanese values were upheld. One of Emperor Meiji's responsibilities became embodying this idea. For example, he wore Western-style clothes and ate Western-style food, but he also composed poems in the traditional Japanese style. Japan rapidly became an industrialized nation with, among other things, a constitution, a parliament, a national compulsory education system, a modern army and navy, roads, trains, and a telegraph system. Emperor Meiji's death on July 30, 1912 in Tokyo, Japan ended the Meiji Restoration, but its legacy lives on today. The last years in the Meiji period saw Japan steadily becoming a modern imperial and military power. Japan had defeated both Russia and China, winning rights and influence in Manchuria and the Korean Peninsula, and allowing Japan to acquire Taiwan in 1895 and annex Korea in 1910. The Anglo-Japanese alliance of 1902 between Britain and Japan, fueled by mutual opposition to Russian expansion, promised each the support of the other in case of war with more than one power, and the responsibility of upholding this promise. This officially recognized Japan as a major player in the field of military alliances, leading to their participation in World War I. After Emperor Meiji died, his son was given the responsibility of being emperor, beginning the Taisho period. The Taisho period began with the Taisho democracy, a nationwide movement for protection of constitutional government and political, economic, educational, and cultural democracy, which continued until Japan's entrance into World War I in 1914. This would not have been possible without the changes to education, society, economics, and culture that the Meiji government made to Japan.